Today we're going to learn the basics about angles. There are four basic types of angles that we're going to look at this year in our textbook. There are acute angles, and an acute angle is an angle that is less than 90 degrees. A right angle is 90 degrees. An obtuse angle is greater than 90 degrees, and a straight angle is exactly 180 degrees because it's two right angles put together. An angle is formed by connecting two rays at an endpoint, and that endpoint here, this is called the vertex. A protractor is used to measure angles exactly. We don't do a ton of this in this class, but early in the book and then later in the book we do need to know how to measure using a protractor. I'm going to show you using an arrow here exactly what we are talking about. Here is the part of the protractor where we'd start if this was the angle we were looking at. And we'd start at 0. Notice that there are two numbers. One of the numbers is 0, the other is 180. And we'd always start at 0. And we'll start measuring 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, all the way up until we get to 110. Now notice if that angle was flipped over and we had a small angle, an acute angle, we'd start counting here at 0, and we'd count up to 70 that way. Also notice how we always put the circle on the protractor goes over the vertex. That way we can see where the angle goes and exactly how much angle we have. Just like we had segment addition in the last section, today we're going to deal with angle addition. Angle addition postulate says that the measure of angle LKN is equal to the measure of angle LKM plus measure of angle NKM. And we're going to just substitute in what we have that is given to us, 145. We've got the 2x plus 10, and we have 4x minus 3. Combine like terms on the right side, that gives us 6x plus 7, and 145 on the left. We'll subtract 7 on both sides. That leaves us with 138 on the left side. 6x on the right side. We divide by 6, and that gives us 23. The question did not ask us to find x. The question asked us, actually, if we look back, to find the measures of these angles. So what we have to do now is we take our 23, and we're going to plug it back in up here. 2 times 23 is 46, plus 10 is 56. And then we could plug it back in over here, although we don't have to because we already know the total, 145. So if we just subtract the 145 minus 56, we'll get the answer. Now notice how you could plug 23 in to the problem, but you don't have to because you can do 145 minus 56. That'll give you 89 in here. I forgot my angle symbol up here. Okay, but that gives us those two, and if you do add those together, you get 145. it's important to be able to label congruent angles just like we labeled congruent segments. Notice how they do this a little bit differently in this problem. Remember when we had line segments, we used the hash marks. When we use angles and we want to label them congruent, we use these angle symbols in between. Notice how they both have one mark in there, which means they're the same. If I put a second mark in there, that would mean that they would not be the same. Now that I've started this problem, I know that I can set this up as 5x plus 5 equals 6x minus 5, and I can do that because they're congruent, so they have the same measure. Now I'm going to add 5 to both sides. That gives me 10. I'll subtract my 5x to the other side. So x is 10. Now if I wanted to find out how big the angles were, like I did in the last problem, I would take my 10 and I'd go plug it back in up here. So I'll do it for this one right here. I'm just going to go do 5 times 10 plus 5, and that will equal 55. Now if I did that for this one as well, you'll notice 6 times 5 is 60, minus 5 is also 55. They have to have the same answer, or else they're not congruent. Because we said in the beginning they're congruent, you would know if you didn't get the same number for both angles that you made a mistake in this section when you solved for x. Today we have a building that is located in Germany, and if you find out where this is and what it's called, again we'll give you some bonus points.